But I will try to force people to think about science and our faith to see how intelligent design is really very much connected. It's not in a parallel kind of universe. And I'm going to use the topic of original sin to do it. And I hope that it'll become clear towards the end how many points can really be dealt with by looking at original sin. So I begin with a slide from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Original sin remains an essential truth of the faith. I want to just put that there, that it is still part of the Catechism. A lot of people would like to deny original sin, but it's still there, and it's not just some subsidiary truth, but an essential truth of the faith. And why is that? Well, I think that we need original sin to make sense out of why there is evil in creation. People ask themselves the question, if God is all powerful and all good, why is there evil in creation? And we see that there is physical evil. We see diseases, earthquakes, and hurricanes, and there is certainly moral evil. We do really nasty things to one another and have been doing so ever since the beginning of history. And of course, the one certainty of our life here is that we will all have to die. So why, if God is all good and all powerful? So the church's answer is Adam and Eve, that they rebelled against God and that we live in a fallen world. But moderns find this difficult to accept in light of the current creation myth, the Darwinian propaganda, that claims that science knows that we descended by a slow, gradual process from some group of primates. This was really brought home to me several years ago. One of the catechists in our parish came to me and said, "Father, I've been teaching the children about Adam and Eve, but you can tell me, what's the real story?" So I figured, okay, maybe I should actually sit down and write a book about it. So I have actually done that. But I will just use the topic of original sin in this particular lecture. So we are going to start by discussing Occam's razor. If you don't know too much science, you might think that Occam's razor favors the Darwinian account. Well, sort of. And why does Occam's razor do that? Well, Occam's razor, I think many of you know, most of you know, is that it basically, if there's two explanations, choose the simpler one. Don't multiply explanatory entities. Keep to the simple, the clear process. So Occam's razor sort of wins against the Catholic account because it links together, makes into one, the creation of man and his fall. And why so? Well, what kind of a being would be favored by natural selection? Well, obviously somebody that beings that copulate often because they produce lots of offspring. Beings that are violent. Certainly, it's advantageous to strike first rather than to be killed. Creatures that hoard things so that they can survive a famine or something or other natural calamity. So it makes sense why we are lustful and violent and greedy and all the other things that we associate with original sin. The Darwinian story comes with its own explanation of why we suffer from these sinful tendencies. It is a one-step process. Now, the Christian account is a two-step process. God created us in his image, and then we rebelled against him. So since simplicity favors Darwin's account, Occam's criterion would win. But that is only if Darwinian evolution could actually explain the arrival of a human being, the arrival of life, and we've seen, I think, quite convincingly this morning that it falls considerably short. And just to quote one sort of scientific study when it comes to human beings, fairly recently there was a meta-study of papers about human evolution. And the study was summarized in this way by the American Museum of Natural History. It said, most human origin stories are not compatible with known fossils. The number of species in the human family tree has exploded, but so has the level of dispute concerning early human evolution. However, many of these fossils show mosaic combinations of features that do not match the expectations for ancient representatives of the modern ape and human lineages. As a consequence, there is no scientific consensus on the evolutionary role played by these fossil apes. Overall, the researchers found that most stories of human origin are not compatible with the fossils that we have today. The lead researcher for the paper admitted, when you look at the narrative for hominin origins, it's just a big mess. There's no consensus whatsoever. Now, that we've dismissed at least that part of the argument for Occam's razor. Let's take a look at the Catholic teaching on the fall of man. And again, this is from the Catechism. And it tells us that the account in Genesis 3 uses figurative language, but it affirms a primeval event, a deed that took place at the beginning of human history. Revelation gives us the certainty of faith that the whole of human history is marked by the original fault committed by our first parents. And there's a footnote there, and it cites three things. And these are three teachings that are quite authoritative. The first is the most, but the other ones I include because they are post-Darwin. So first of all, in the Council of Trent, 16th century, it speaks about the sin of Adam, which is one in origin. So we all inherit original sin from one person. And then Pius XII, who in 1950, in his encyclical Humani Generis, permitted the discussion of the possibility of the evolution of the human body, nevertheless said that that does not pertain to the soul, that God must be the immediate cause of each human soul, because it is a spiritual entity which cannot be produced by mixing matter in any sort of way, no matter how complicated. And then he specifically addressed the possibility that we come from more than one person. And so he says, the faithful cannot embrace that opinion which maintains that either after Adam there existed on this earth true men who did not take their origins through natural generation from him as from the first parent of all, or that Adam represents a certain number of first parents. Now, it is in no way apparent how such an opinion can be reconciled with that which the sources of revealed truth and the documents of the teaching authority of the Church propose with regard to original sin, which proceeds from a sin actually committed by an individual Adam, and which, through generation, is passed on to all, and is in everyone as his own. So Pius XII is still insisting on monogenism, just like the Council of Trent. We all come from a sole, single mother and father. And that's contrasted with polygenism, and that just means that there's more than one. Some people look at polygenism as speaking about different groups of primates in different parts of the world giving rise to different races. Well, that is a form of polygenism, but it could also mean that there was an original pack of 100 primates that all sort of gave rise to us. That too is polygenism because it's more than just the one couple. And then Paul VI, speaking in the 1960s, that's the third footnote. It is evident that you will not consider as reconcilable with the authentic Catholic doctrine those explanations of original sin given by some modern authors that start with the presupposition of polygenism, which is not proved. So he was chastising some theologians who just immediately assumed that evolution happened because we were allowed to talk about it, and started coming up with all sorts of scenarios that had the possibility of polygenism.